Hello everyone! Let's begin our painted paper. This paper is going to represent the treetop area. So when you're working, make sure your name is on your back, you have a placemat, and then we have a tray of warm colors. I'm using neon, but you could use regular as well. The painted paper should have some variety and some textures. So you'll want to kind of work one color at a time, then blending other colors so that way it looks different in different spots. You can go in and use a variety of tools and techniques to add different textures. Place on the drying rack to dry and clean your tools. Welcome back. We're going to do our sky painting. So with your piece of watercolor paper, notice we're not using a placemat today. You're going to write your name on the back and flip it over. The sky is the top 1/3 of the picture. You can paint below this line, but you don't need to. I'm going to do a blue sky. There are obviously other colors of sky that you could incorporate. For painting, we're using this wide flat brush, and we're going to paint water first. Notice I'm pulling the brush the way that it's shaped. So I'm dragging it across, adding lots and lots of water on that top third. This technique is called wet on wet because the paper is now wet, and then obviously the watercolor is going to be wet. So we're trying to make a gradient. That means that as we are blending it down, the color is going to fade. So notice the color is brighter at the top. I'm going to go back in, add a little bit of purple. And as I'm moving it stroke by stroke back and forth, I run out of color. I just end up using water and it gradually fades. Okay? Our next step, when we've let it dry for a little bit, we're going to come back with 2 new supplies. So you'll need paper towel and a bigger brush. Now we're focusing on the bottom 2/3. So we're doing another section of like treetop colors. So focusing on warm colors, plus you can add some greens or browns. Again, this is wet on wet, so please paint the paper with water first. You should work a little quickly here because you want the paper to still be wet when you get to the painting part. Then just work your way one color at a time. Try to group the colors together. So I'm going to like spread yellows out in little clumps, and then I'll end up going back in with other colors. Notice I'm going up over the blue sky line. If you get pooling where there's too much water, this is what your paper towel is for. You're just going to dab, and notice it does leave a little bit of a texture. Here's one I worked on a little bit longer, and you can see what I mean about grouping some colors, doing some overlap, and I ended up doing a curve in my sky. Welcome back. We're going to work on the foreground, middle ground, and background. You'll need to pick 2 pieces of colored construction paper. We're cutting things on a diagonal, but you don't want to cut it straight. So notice I'm kind of like moving my scissors around to create a bumpy edge because these are representing treetop areas. So in this example, the yellow will be like my background piece. That orange one is my foreground, and your painted paper is going to be the middle ground. Now, you only have a couple of these, so you want to be really careful about cutting the painted paper. So I would recommend laying the pieces together and using a pencil to draw where you want that middle ground to be. Then you can cut it. Line them up, make sure you like them. Here's a different example where I was kind of playing with some different shapes, getting them a little bit larger, and I even have an extra painted paper when I'm tucking in the background. When you're happy with how it looks and you can see all 3 areas, flip them down, and we're going to glue them in a certain way. So I'm just putting glue around the bottom edge and the outside edge. So look at this, it's like an L shape. The reason why we're gluing things down that way is because we might want to tuck things underneath those hills. So you're going to continue with that gluing method with all of the other pieces, making sure to press and hold, and make sure everything is sticking on and not sticking out from the bottom or the side edges. I like to flip it over and rub from the back side. Next up, we're going to add some details to the two parts of the plain paper. So you have a handout with some foliage ideas for some modern looking trees and bushes. We're decorating my yellow one and my red one. Those are the plain construction paper. And for this step, we're using chalk pastel. The background piece, the piece that's the furthest away, should have the smaller shapes. And the foreground piece, which is closest to you, should have larger shapes. Remember, the trees that appear closer are going to appear larger. Trees that are farther would obviously appear smaller. We're using the warm colors, so red, orange, yellow, and then also you can use some greens and browns too. And you're going to continue in adding some shapes with the chalk pastel. They could be treetop shapes or bush or shrubs. After you're done with that, we're going to either use your finger or use some paper towel and rub and blend those in to soften them. Remember, we're not trying to smear everything, so you're rubbing them individually in a circular motion. After you're done with this step, we're going in with colored pencil, and you should look at the handout just to get some ideas, but we want to bring some detail and definition to all of these areas. We're trying to make it look like there are trees and bushes, and when you kind of squint your eyes and you look from far away, it would actually look like a forest. Carefully add those in, making sure that the ones on the foreground are larger, the ones on the background are smaller. This brings us to our next step. We're going to add some houses. You need at least one house, but you can add additional houses. You could also add other details too. Remember how we had glued it, so we'll be able to tuck things in, which is really important for this next step. So we're going to follow the steps on this paper to draw a 3D house. Your 3D house can be a different shape and have a different look to it, but we do want to see the front, the roof, and the one side of the house. So if you started with a different shape, your 3D house would look a little bit different, and that's a great idea. I'm just using the simple box shape, and I'm making kind of a medium shape house. I think I'm going to put this one in my foreground, and then I'll make a second smaller house for my background. At this stage where we're just like making details, you can add additional things, whatever's going to make sense for your forest. So you could add like fence lines, roads, lampposts, maybe there could be a road going through it. It's up to you. Remember our good craftsmanship. Each detail you're adding should be colored carefully and cut out very well. One optional detail you could add is a body of water like a lake. To do that, you'll need a piece of paper that matches your sky color. Notice it doesn't have to be very big, and you are tucking it behind those forest shapes. Then add your details in, making sure that bigger details go towards the front and the foreground, smaller details go towards the background. Use Elmer's glue to glue those in carefully. And another additional step, if you would like, and you had chimneys on your house, you could take a little piece of wool, kind of separate it into these little wisps, and then using the Elmer's glue, you could glue them so that the chimneys look like there is smoke coming out of them. And it just kind of helps with the whole cozy feel that it's cold outside and people have their fireplaces on. The very last step I would recommend is adding a little bit more glue to those forest shapes that we added. Remember, they're kind of floppy, and if we hang these up in the hallway, we don't want them flopping down. So I'm just going to add a few more drops of glue to any spot that feels a little baggy and loose. Thanks so much for working really hard on this project. I'm so excited to see your amazing fall landscape.